When we talk about attraction, most people immediately think about visibility. They think about what can be observed from the outside: smiles, compliments, flirtation, physical closeness. But deep attraction often reveals itself in a much quieter way. It appears in the form of emotional proximity. A woman who is deeply attracted to a man is not simply interested in being around him. She becomes interested in being connected to him. That distinction is important because being present and being connected are not the same thing. We have all experienced relationships in which two people spend considerable time together yet remain strangers to one another. And we've also experienced the opposite: conversations that create a sense of closeness within minutes because something meaningful has been exchanged. Attraction, at its deepest level, tends to move in the direction of connection. It seeks understanding. It seeks access to another person's inner life. One of the clearest signs that a woman finds you deeply attractive is that she begins investing attention in your psychological world. She wants to know what you think, not just what you do. She asks questions that go beyond facts and enter the realm of perspective. She becomes curious about your experiences, your values, your interpretations of life. This curiosity is rarely random. It is driven by a growing emotional investment. Psychologically speaking, attention is never neutral. We direct it toward what matters to us. We remember what captures us emotionally. If someone repeatedly returns to your stories, your opinions, your concerns, it suggests that your presence has acquired significance in her mind. You might notice that she remembers details you assumed were insignificant. Perhaps you mentioned a book you enjoyed months ago, a challenge involving a family member, or a goal you hoped to achieve. Later, she brings it up again without prompting. On the surface, this may seem like simple good listening, but beneath it lies something more profound. It indicates that information about you was not merely heard. It was retained, and retention is often a sign of value. We live in a world saturated with information. Every day, people hear countless stories, names, opinions, and facts. Most of it disappears almost immediately. What remains tends to be connected to emotional importance. When a woman remembers the details of your life, she is demonstrating that your experiences have become meaningful enough to occupy space in her memory. What's particularly interesting is that this form of attraction is less concerned with performance and more concerned with authenticity. Many men have been taught, either directly or indirectly, that attraction depends on impressing others. They feel pressure to appear accomplished, confident, or exceptional at all times. Yet deep attraction often grows not from perfection, but from genuine self-revelation. The moments that create emotional intimacy are rarely moments of flawless presentation. They are moments of honesty, a thoughtful conversation about a difficult lesson learned, a sincere reflection about aging, purpose, or loss, a story that reveals character rather than status. These are the moments that allow another person to encounter the real individual behind the social role. In many ways, attraction is connected to a fundamental human desire, the desire to know and be known. Most of us move through life carrying parts of ourselves that remain unseen. We fulfill responsibilities, meet expectations, and maintain identities that help us function in the world. Yet beneath those roles exists a more personal reality: our fears, hopes, contradictions, and aspirations. When a woman is deeply attracted to a man, she often develops a desire to move closer to that reality. She wants to understand what makes him who he is. This is why emotional proximity can become more significant than physical proximity. Someone may sit across from you at dinner and remain emotionally distant. Another person may be hundreds of miles away and still feel psychologically close because of the depth of understanding that exists between you. Attraction frequently narrows that emotional distance. It motivates people to build bridges into one another's inner worlds. So as you think about the signs of deep attraction, don't focus only on what is visible. Pay attention to where her attention goes. Notice whether she seeks your perspective, remembers your experiences, and returns to conversations that mattered to you. Those behaviors reveal something far more substantial than casual interest. Because when someone consistently seeks connection with your inner world, they are offering one of the strongest signals of genuine attraction. They are showing that your mind, your experiences, and your humanity matter to them. And perhaps the deepest question is not whether someone is curious about you, but whether you are willing to let yourself be known. Genuine connection begins when authenticity becomes more important than impression. Another sign that a woman finds you deeply attractive is often far subtler than people expect. It is not necessarily expressed through grand gestures or obvious declarations. Instead, it appears in the way she becomes increasingly attuned to your reactions, your opinions, and your perception of her. This is a fascinating psychological phenomenon because it reveals something fundamental about human attachment. The people who matter to us inevitably gain influence over our emotional world. Their approval feels more rewarding. Their criticism carries more weight. Their attention becomes more significant. Attraction, in many ways, is the beginning of this process. When a woman feels deeply drawn to a man, she often becomes unusually aware of how she exists in his eyes. She notices his responses. She pays attention to what makes him smile, what captures his interest, what earns his respect. This doesn't mean she loses herself or abandons her individuality. Rather, it means that his perspective has become emotionally meaningful to her. Think about how this works in ordinary life. Most people's opinions pass through us without leaving much impact. A stranger's judgment rarely changes our day. An acquaintance's approval may feel pleasant, but it doesn't linger. Yet when someone matters to us, everything shifts. Their reactions become information we absorb more carefully. Their words stay with us longer. Their perception begins to matter because the relationship itself matters. This is one reason attraction often reveals itself through subtle adjustments in behavior. You may notice that a woman remembers comments you've made and refers back to them later. You may notice that she seems pleased when you appreciate something she has done. You may notice that she becomes more animated when discussing subjects she knows interest you. These behaviors are not necessarily calculated. In many cases, they occur almost automatically. Human beings naturally move toward the people whose regard they value. What makes this particularly interesting is that deep attraction is not only about wanting to be liked. It is about wanting to be understood and appreciated by a specific person. There is a profound difference between seeking general approval and valuing the approval of someone who has become emotionally important. The first is social. The second is relational. It reflects the emergence of a bond. Psychologically, we might say that attraction creates a heightened sensitivity to emotional feedback. A woman who is deeply attracted becomes more aware of the signals coming from the man she values. She notices changes in tone. She pays attention to moments of connection. She becomes interested in whether her thoughts resonate with his and whether her presence is meaningful to him. Many men misinterpret this process because they assume attraction is primarily expressed through pursuit, but often attraction is expressed through attention. It appears in the willingness to observe, to listen, and to adapt, not out of manipulation, but out of investment. There is also a philosophical dimension to this. Human beings develop their identities in relationship with others. We do not discover ourselves entirely in isolation. We learn who we are through dialogue, recognition, and connection. When someone becomes important to us, their perception functions almost like a mirror. We become curious about what they see in us because their perspective has acquired value. This is why a woman who finds you deeply attractive may occasionally seem more vulnerable around you than around others. Vulnerability is often a consequence of caring. The more meaningful a person's opinion becomes, the more emotional risk exists. To care about someone's view of you is, in a sense, to give them access to a part of your emotional life. Of course, healthy attraction does not mean constant approval seeking. Mature attraction retains individuality and self-respect. The goal is not dependence. The goal is connection. A psychologically healthy woman does not abandon her identity in order to be admired. Rather, she allows herself to be influenced by someone she genuinely respects and values. And that distinction matters. What you are looking for is not whether she agrees with everything you say. Genuine attraction is not blind agreement. It is whether your perspective consistently matters to her, whether she listens closely when you speak, whether your reactions carry significance, whether she seems invested in understanding how you experience her and the relationship between you. When these patterns emerge, they often signal that attraction has moved beyond surface-level interest and entered the realm of emotional investment. She is no longer simply enjoying your company. She is becoming responsive to your presence in a deeper psychological sense. And perhaps that is the real lesson here. The strongest connections are not built when two people try to impress each other. They are built when each person's perspective becomes genuinely meaningful to the other. The moment someone values how you see them, attraction is no longer about appearance alone. It is about significance. The third sign is perhaps the most revealing because it moves beyond curiosity and emotional sensitivity into action. A woman who finds you deeply attractive will often create reasons to remain part of your life. She does not simply enjoy the connection when it happens to occur. She actively contributes to its continuation. This is where attraction becomes visible through consistency rather than intensity. Many people misunderstand attraction because they focus on dramatic moments. They look for powerful declarations, unmistakable signals, or emotionally charged encounters. But in real life, especially in mature relationships, attraction is often expressed through something much quieter and far more meaningful: sustained effort. The question is not whether someone enjoys being with you when circumstances bring you together. The question is whether they seek ways to keep the connection alive when those circumstances are absent. Psychologically, this makes perfect sense. Human beings invest in what matters to them. We make time for the people we value. We create opportunities where none previously existed. We find reasons to reach out, to share, to reconnect. These actions are not always conscious strategies. More often, they emerge naturally from emotional investment. When a woman is deeply attracted to a man, she frequently looks for small bridges between one interaction and the next. She sends a message about something that reminded her of him. She shares an article, a story, a memory, or an observation that could easily have remained private. She finds ways to include him in her ongoing experience of life. What's important here is not the specific behavior itself. The behavior can vary enormously from person to person. Some individuals communicate frequently, others are more reserved, some are expressive, others are subtle. The deeper pattern is continuity. She is not allowing the connection to exist only in isolated moments. She is helping it become part of an ongoing narrative, and that is a significant distinction. Attraction creates a desire for presence. Deep attraction creates a desire for continuity. In many ways, this reflects one of the fundamental realities of human attachment. We are meaning-making creatures. We naturally seek coherence in our lives. When someone becomes emotionally important, we begin integrating them into our internal story. We think about future conversations. We imagine shared experiences. We create psychological space for their presence. This is why persistence can be such a powerful indicator of attraction. Not persistence in the sense of pressure or pursuit, but persistence in attention. The relationship remains active in her mind even when you are not physically present. You may notice that conversations rarely end completely. Instead, they evolve. One discussion leads naturally into another. One shared experience becomes the basis for future interaction. She remembers things she wants to tell you later. She stores away observations that she believes you might appreciate. In essence, she continues relating to you even during periods of absence. There is also a deeper philosophical dimension to this behavior. When we choose to remain connected to someone, we are making a statement about value. Time is finite, attention is finite, emotional energy is finite. Every relationship exists within these limitations. To repeatedly invest these resources in another person is to reveal their importance. This is why genuine attraction is often less about dramatic expressions and more about repeated choices. The grand gesture can be exciting, but consistency reveals commitment. Anyone can display enthusiasm in a fleeting moment. Sustained effort requires something deeper. For many men, this insight can be particularly valuable because it shifts attention away from interpreting isolated signals. Instead of focusing on a single compliment, a single smile, or a single interaction, look at the larger pattern. Is she finding ways to remain connected? Is she contributing to the continuation of the relationship? Is she creating opportunities for further engagement? These questions often reveal far more than any individual gesture ever could. What makes mature attraction especially powerful is that it seeks integration rather than excitement alone. The goal is not merely to experience another person, it is to include them in one's life. Attraction becomes meaningful when it moves beyond fascination and begins creating a shared sense of continuity. Ultimately, this is what distinguishes deep attraction from temporary interest. Temporary interest enjoys the moment. Deep attraction invests in the future. It looks for ways to build something that extends beyond a single encounter. And perhaps that is the most important insight of all. People reveal their feelings less through what they say in emotional moments and more through what they repeatedly choose. When someone consistently creates space for you in their life, they are telling you something profound. The strongest connections are not built through intensity alone. They are built through the quiet decision, made again and again, to remain present.